everyone, and welcome to another Thursday webinar here at Route Consultant, where we're going to focus on waste routes. Now, for those of you who have watched our waste webinars before, you probably know Josh is your usual host, but I'm happily filling in today. My name is Shelby Flanders, and I am on our education team here at Route Consultant. That means my goal today is to bring you new information in the waste space and to continue to be a place that we can come together and ask questions. Format-wise, if you have never been here before, we're going to go over some content. We're going to have some updates. And then if there are any questions at the end, we'll leave time for a Q&A. If you have any questions about today's topic, last week's topic, the industry as a whole, you can leave those questions in the Q&A spot at the bottom of your screen. Now, if you're on YouTube and you're not watching this live, that's okay. You can still ask us questions. Just email us info@routeconsultant.com. Or you can join us on next week's webinar. We have these webinars every Thursday. Now, again, if you have questions today, drop them in the Q&A at the bottom of the window. It's the best place for me to be able to make sure that I see your question. If it's not there and you put it in the chat, I probably won't see it. So Q&A section. Now, if you're following along with us, you know our waste expert, Tommy. If it's your first time watching a waste webinar with us, I would encourage you to go back and watch our past videos so you can get to know Tommy and the waste industry a little bit better. But what you need to know today is Tommy is our waste industry expert. He's been in the industry since he was a teenager, basically grew up in it with his dad and his brothers, probably even before he was a teenager technically, but he went on to make sure that other waste businesses were also successful. So hello, Tommy. Thank you for being on with us today.
Hey, Shelby. Good to be here.
Thank you. So today we're going to talk about important relationships in the industry. And this is one of my favorite topics because I love networking. So let's just go ahead and start with an easy question, right? What are some of the most important people to have relationships with in this industry?
Yeah, I would say start off, and again, they're going to be relationships that may be a little unique to normal business relationships. We'll get into that. But one is a big component of your cost is the disposal site. And so whoever manages or owns whatever disposal site or sites that you use, it's important to have a relationship with them. They are, again, it is a place where every one of your employees go every day. All of your trucks that are out on route go every day. It is a place that could create safety hazards, both for the employee individually, as well as for your fleet if they don't follow the rules and the guidelines. It's also a place where all your competitors go. And so having a relationship with the manager of the site, or again, sites that you may be visiting, is important because that allows you the opportunity. There's going to be times where you may need something, and it'll be a great opportunity for you to be able to pick up the phone, call that person. It's a great place to check in with your team, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to, make sure they're not creating any issues. And it's also a way for you to get information on your competition, who's coming in, what are they using, and if you have a good relationship with that disposal site manager, sometimes you get better intel there than you do anywhere else as far as what's going on, because again, all your competitors folks go there too. If something's going on within there, there's a chance they may be talking about it. Mm-hmm. So that's the first.
Okay.
The second, I would say, is what's called a solid waste director. This is typically a government employee. It can be from a city, or it could be from the county, or it could be a combination of both. Because in most states, each county municipality has to have someone assigned to make sure that their waste is properly being disposed of. And so in this case, this person could oversee if they do their own routes, it's probably the person overseeing that. Or if they outsource, it's probably the first point of contact. Depending on the size of the municipality or the county, could depend on how big a network is within the solid waste department. And if you recall earlier, I mentioned that the solid waste department falls under public works.
Mhm.
But this is a person just to, again, get to know, let them know that you're there. It's probably where you're going to have to go to get your solid waste permit. Again, basically a decal that you put on your truck. Uh, but again, it's a way to kind of, put yourself as somebody in the industry. So as things come up, questions come up, they know that you're available.
Okay, so even if you don't have a municipal contract, it's probably a good idea to have a relationship with that person, right?
Yeah, because again, they're responsible for all the solid waste. And if they just know who's there and what's going on, if they happen to get a call of, hey, I live out in the county, what do I do with my waste? Oh, there's a list of people, it may be also just getting your name on that list,
Mhm.
or, could be a personal reference from the solid waste director, which would be pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really cool. And kind of, going back to the disposal site manager a little bit too, it sounds like a terminal manager in that, like, if there's a problem, they can call you and say like, hey, you need to get this fixed because this could be an issue. And so that's a really important piece. And then, I think there was one or other person, right, that you were gonna mention?
Yeah, the other person I would say is whoever the local representative is for where you service. It could be several. The elected official from where your facility is, the areas that you service, and then if you have a municipal contract, it is good to let all of the council, the commissioners, however, whatever structure they have, that they're aware of who you are,
Mhm.
because one thing none of the elected officials want to deal with is waste. And so again, if they know you're there, you're available, you just let them know what you do. Hey, I service some of the homes in your district. And this is a great way for you to position yourself with that individual as an expert as well, where, hey, you can call me whenever you want. I'll be able to help you answer any questions you may have, because if they get a call on something waste related, they're not going to know.
Mhm.
And I don't know, but I know somebody. So, I mean, it's just a great opportunity. And that way, if there are issues, even a complaint because where your trucks are parked or anything of that sort, they know about you, they know who you are, just even from the facility. So there's several people within that I would recommend that you reach out to and make them aware of who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, so when you reach out to these people for the first time, how would you go about that? Like the first time that you would have been in a situation like that, what would have been the steps to start that relationship, to start cultivating that relationship?
Yeah, I would say the first thing, don't let the first communication you have with them is when there's an issue, because that's why it's important to reach out. All of these people have a lot of folks pulling at them, and
Mhm.
most of them are wanting something. And so your best approach, and each one would be a little different, but at the disposal site, I would say it would be, drop by there, be there in person, find out who that is, because there's a depending on the size of the facility, they could be, out in the field doing stuff, looking at their folks versus sitting in an office. Um, and so it's good to be out there. That one I would say stop by, and again, it's just making sure, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I do. My folks are coming in here. If they ever do something I need to address, please don't hesitate to let me know. And you're not asking for anything, but if some point in time something happens where you have a truck that breaks down or is not following the rules or something, it just makes those conversations that need to be had much easier.
Yeah.
And then on the solid waste director, it really depends on the size. Depending on the size, how you get to that individual. If it is a smaller solid waste department, I think it's good to drop by, stick your head in, but it may be something where you have to set up a time, but it's important to let them know that you're just coming to introduce yourself. You
Mhm.
know, you're looking for 5 or 10 minutes. Shelby mentioned and is that I grew up in the waste business with my brothers and my dad, and one of my brothers spent over 20 years as a solid waste director for accounting. And so, understanding the things that he dealt with and not people pulling on him all the time, and
Mhm.
they could work directly with the elected officials as well. And so there's things that go on with them, and again, just a resource, somebody that talk to, as somebody they can reach out to, information you may have. And let's say that they hear of an opportunity, something that comes up, maybe it's some type of cleanup, or they're having some countywide cleanup deal and they're needing somebody to help them out with that. Again, there's revenue opportunities with that outside of, you know, just outside of just a municipal contract. One other thing I do want to mention on that, in some cases, these solid waste directors, it could be several that come together, uh, and they form a solid waste authority. I know, one of the agreements I had years ago in Mississippi, I think there were 5 cities that came together, because none of them were huge, but all 5 of those cities came together and formed a solid waste authority, which gave them the ability to contract out. So one contract for all 5. And again, it was smart on their part because there was volume and they were able to get better pricing. So again, as you look at that, those solid waste directors, it could be just for a small city. It could be for, a metropolitan area, or it could be several combined. So I failed to mention that earlier. So I wanted to throw that in.
Yeah,
Um,
hey, throw it in. That's great. I think we've talked, and I didn't really even think that I didn't know that that was a possibility, but it makes a lot of sense and it's great for, the waste owner who can get, a contract with the authority.
yeah. Yeah. So, but again, those, how you approach them are a little, you may not be able to just walk in. If it's a smaller one, you may be able to just walk in. Again, anytime you can walk in, leave a business card, and then follow up would be best. On elected officials, chances are you're not going to walk in and see them. Uh, but again, an email, a phone call, just touch base. Hey, I just want to introduce myself. And you may have to do that several times, or you may not get any response at all. But at least you've made that attempt for that. And if it's where your facility is located, you probably will, because you are one of their constituents. And there's a big deal if you're one of their constituents versus, just somebody at services in the area. So
Yeah.
things to think about. But again, don't wait until you have a reason you have to talk to them to be the first time they hear who you are or meet you or see your name in something.
Yeah, definitely. I love the proactive advice. And with the, elected officials, even if they don't get back to you then, they've got your information probably somewhere. Someone has it, right? And then if something happens, they can be like, oh, we got that email from that person who tried to reach out to us, then they could contact you if necessary, right? So at least you've put it out there for them.
Right.
Now, kind of moving towards, if people have individual customers, if you're going and you've gotten these people that are on the quarterly cycle with you, how do you build relationships with the individual customers if you're servicing outside of a municipality?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing on residential, whether you have a municipal contract or subscription, there's not a whole lot of individual contact unless something goes wrong. But what they want to know is you're a part of the community.
Mm.
And that could be, again, from some type of small sponsorship in a school program, or a board, or they just want to know, hey, this person's in my community. That is the best way for you to have outreach in regards to that. because so much of the service now is also, I mean, it's sitting beside the street. And so, I mean, even if they're there, you may not see them, and trying to go around, because what you want to do is build a large base, a lot of people to be able to get density to make it profitable. And going through and trying to contact all of them is tough. But again, get involved in the community where you're servicing. And again, I'm not, it doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be expensive. Be creative, but just let them know that you're there and you're a part of that community. That helps in those regards.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then I was going to say commercial and industrial is totally different, because those are individual relationships.
Mhm.
Uh, and I would tell you, you need to think about setting up some type of program, whether it is, I would tell you to look at two things. One, of course, is your large revenue customers, because again, some of these can be, $10,000, $20,000 a month. I mean, that's just a single customer at a single location. And on those, your competition, the big national guys, they're going to be calling on them as much as they can, because everybody wants that big chunk of revenue. And so you need to make sure that they're seeing you more than they're seeing the competition coming in asking for the business. But the other in this industry that I would tell you to really think about is your high profit customers. Because what happens in this industry, so if you acquire a company, it's very common, again, annual rate increases to these customers. And so you have some that you may have been a customer for 10, 15 years, and they've just accepted a rate increase every year, never done anything, and they become quite profitable. Um, and so you want to make sure you take into consideration, those as well. Just again, it may not be, it may be a small customer, but you may have huge margins with them, that you just make sure you touch base with them. So I would say look at tiers in two different ways. Of some, you want to make sure you contact at least once a quarter, maybe some every 6 months, maybe some once a year. And again, the once a year just could be an email. Thank you for your business. We're always here, but set up something just to touch base, because this is an industry that there's a lot of people in the industry. And, you don't want to lose one because you're just sitting back operating and raking in the profits from it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, as long as you've got sort of a system in place, that way you don't become complacent, right? You don't want to just assume that your customers are going to be there forever. You want to be able to actually take care of them and service them and make sure they have your contact information. So that's solid business plan right there.
Yes.
So as far as vendors go, are there vendors that you like working with? Are there vendors that are helpful to have a relationship with in the business?
Yeah, I would tell you in this case, your vendors are going to fall into primarily two categories. One that you're definitely going to have vendors with is going to be on the fleet side. The other would be accounting, payroll, because a whole lot of that is outsourced as well. Uh, and so, with the fleet vendors, the first thing I would say is there are two that you definitely have very strong relationships with, and two you need to make sure you have set up so you don't forget. Um, but I would tell you with that, you know, try to get references. That is probably the biggest thing. Is, as you're going out looking, yes, you can Google, but it's one of those things, bits of information you can get when you're sitting at the landfill. A competitor's truck comes in, you see the guy, you say, hey, who works on your trucks, who does your tires, those types of things. And at least you get information other than just going out and doing an internet search for who it is. But then again, the others that do that. But I would tell you the first is just fleet maintenance. The person that's going to make sure they're doing the PMs, they're repairing the trucks. You need to have a very strong relationship with them. And I would tell you, to get the right one, you need to make sure you are very clear as to the type
Mhm.
of work you do, that it is waste trucks, and they are in most of them are large trucks. And so you need to go through and make sure they understand what it is, the geographic area you cover, and make sure that they have a mobile service. That is critical in this industry, to make sure they have some type of mobile service. But yeah, you definitely want to have a strong relationship with them. But I would tell you also, do not put all your eggs in one basket. I would tell you, when it comes to this, on fleet repairs, I would say you most people have a primary and then they have a backup.
Mm.
Um, and so it's just somebody, if something comes up, you have a situation, your primary can't get there, you want to make sure you've got somebody else, a secondary, that can get out there. And the same is also with tires. Again, you're going to have more flat tires in this industry than almost any other industry. And
Mhm.
it's primarily just because of where they go. The disposal sites, people dump everything there. There's glass, there's metal, there's nails, there's screws, there's all kinds of stuff. And although the disposal site, this is not a reflection on the disposal site, they can do the best they can to keep, a good pathway, a good roadway. But all of these trucks are backing up to, a place where everybody else has been dumping waste that day. And so, you're going to have those situations. Some of them, it could be, when I say catastrophic, I'm talking about something in the sidewall of a tire, it rips it out. But most of it, there's a nail or something that gets in, and it can be repaired, out on the street. And so you want to make sure you have that tire vendor there. Again, they've got to have a mobile service. And so it's a combination of repair and then purchase as well, because most do both. The two that I tell folks, don't forget that you need to have a relationship, because again, it's kind of like, the introductions with some of the key people you want to have relationships with. One is with a wrecker service.
Mm.
um, you know because that's something you don't ever want to have to use, but when you use it, when you need it, it's something you don't want to have to go through and try to find somebody. Then you have to set the account up, or some of them say, up, you've got to meet me. Somebody's got to meet me there with money. I mean, I've seen all of those things happen over the years. So just make sure you have a vendor set up. I wouldn't tell you that's somebody you need to necessarily have a strong relationship with, but definitely somebody that you need to make sure is set up. And then the second one would be a mobile welder. Again, these truck bodies are metal. Yes, they are heavy duty, but there's little things that may happen where, tack weld, little things like that. If you will do the little small things as they happen, they don't become major issues, and
Yeah.
you can get them fixed. So again, that's somebody you just want to set up, who's out there, who's available, you know, those types of things, to make sure they get them set up. So vendors, I would say, key is on your fleet. That is the key part related to that.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, I love how you pointed out, you tiered it where you've got the people that you're going to talk to a lot, so you need to have a really, solid relationship with them. And I also love contingency planning. You're a mechanic, right, to make sure that you've got backups. But also, like, if you're having a bad day and you need a wrecker, you don't want to have a worse day and scramble, right? Just having that already established is going to make that bad day a little bit more manageable, a little bit better, right? So it's
Right.
a really good tip. Um, and then kind of one of the last relationships, that we really want to talk about is the backbone of the business, your employees, right? How do you manage that relationship with them? How do you set that culture in this industry for your employees?
Yeah, we could probably spend about 2 or 3 hours just on that topic, but for the sake of time, I'll hit on some things that I have found that are key
Perfect.
in this industry. Some are just basic leadership skills. One is you have to have the trust of your team, and you're not going to have the trust of your team if you don't have integrity involved in telling them the facts of how things are and what's going on. And the other is, it's a mutual respect issue. um, Again, some of these folks in this industry, because they are the garbage man, they want to make sure that they're getting respected at where they work, because they may not get it so much outside of their work. And so it's important for you to continually let them know how much you respect what they do, and the things that they have to deal with. That's very important in this industry. um, but I would tell you, the other thing is be visible. One of the things in this industry that happens is, so most of the residential trucks leave at about the same time. Unlike other logistics company where things are staggered to get out, that's not necessarily the case in this industry. And so you have a great opportunity, again, not every day, but a great opportunity to get that entire team in that particular line of business together, and have regular meetings. Just tell them what's going on, let them know how you appreciate them, new customers, an issue that's going on. And so just be visible, have those regular meetings. Even those, if you get into the commercial business, some of those leave at 1 o'clock in the morning. I would tell you, occasionally show up. uh just let them know, hey, I know, because that's part of the respect issue. Hey, if I've got to get up at 1 o'clock, if you get up at 1 o'clock occasionally, I'm good with that. At least know this is what we do.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I would say that the other is on the visibility. Is, I would say, meet them out or see them out on route. Make sure they see that you're out there. Some of that could be specifically while they're out on route. Have them, make sure there's a presence. They're not out there alone. Occasionally, going back to the disposal site, again, you're going to know, roughly when your guys are going to be coming through. That's a great place to meet them. Hot summer day, hand out, water, soda, Gatorade, something of that sort as your guys come in. I mean, it's things like that help them understand how important they are, outside of just the things you can get anywhere on, for other industries. One other little thing is, if you're at the disposal site handing out Gatorade to your team, all the other companies are going to be wondering why. And so again, could be a recruiting opportunity as well. So, but I would say those are the big things. Be visible, give them respect, meet them out on the routes occasionally. Again, I'm not telling you meet them out there once a week. I'm not even telling you every 2 or 3 weeks, but try to find a way to be visible where they're working, because again, they're out there away from you the vast majority of the time. I mean, your chance to see them is in the morning and when they're out there working. So that goes a long way with the folks that work in this industry.
Yeah, I love the Gatorade water bottle example. We tell if any of our viewers have ever watched some of our FedEx webinars, you've probably heard us say taking breakfast in the morning or something like that is really helpful too. And I'm sure you've probably done that with some of your guys in the waste business too, especially those 1 a.m. Probably like some of those biscuits from Hardee's or something like that. So, but awesome.
Biscuits from Hardee's are little sack lunches that have fruit and cakes and stuff like that. Goes a long way too.
I've heard it's very regional. I've had some people tell me that like it's a burrito type of breakfast place. I've had people tell me, they like chicken biscuits, Hardee's biscuits. It seems to be very regional, which is very interesting. And that's probably a whole nother time. But yeah, it's just cool to see what's important to employees and being able to just do those little things that help, let them know that you care about them, care about what they do, give them that respect, like you said, because they make the world go round. It's one of those things that you don't really see it, but when you notice it didn't happen, you really see it then, right? So they're very important. So thank you so much, Tommy, for coming on and showing us, which relationships we needed to create, how we create them and why they're important. If you as a viewer think of any questions after this webinar is over, please do not hesitate to reach out to us here at Route Consultant. We want to help you in your journey to becoming a waste owner. And for those of you who are just starting in this space, we have our 101 on the website now. So if you've done that though, and you want some more education, more information, we also now have a new virtual new investor summit. It is on our website and it includes an in-person workshop where you can come and see us here in Nashville. And for those of you who are interested in the new investor summit, I kind of like to think of it as a sampler platter. You get a little bit of a taste of everything. And so that way, by the end, yes, I want to do this. I want to move forward. But again, if you have any questions about anything, please reach out to our team, info@routeconsultant.com.